Okay, everybody, so today this is a quick little presentation that is going to get posted in multiple courses, hopefully to reach out to all the people entering their final year. This is mainly targeted at people entering their final year and not necessarily third year, especially if you're planning on taking an extra year. You can apply to any of these in your final year, and I'll go into details a little bit about that. But what I'm going to outline here is research practicum, athletic therapy internship, and kin internship. I'm most involved in kin internship. I'm the professor for the course this year. And then Ian Barker, who will pop on in a minute, he's the internship coordinator, so he organizes all the placements. But first, to give you guys an overview of all the experiential learning opportunities we have available in fourth year and how to apply for each one of those, I'll get into these slides here. Okay, so the course codes, I believe, for this year will be the same. 4498 and 4499U are Research Practicum 1 and 2. So think of this here as sort of a mini master's. This is a research project which you undertake in your fourth year that generally has ethics approval by the supervisor prior to you applying. So you don't have to go through some of the bureaucracy of applying for ethics and getting the project approved. Usually the funding is lined up there. The professor has an idea for a project they want to execute, or it's a larger or a smaller subset of a larger project which a master's or PhD student or postdoc is taking on, and then you will help out collecting and analyzing a small subset of that data. But essentially there is a large expectation on you of about 100 hours per term. This obviously varies with the project in terms of how much data collection, how much analysis, if it's weighted much heavier in the winter, which most of these are. So keep that in mind if your winter term is very, very heavy. But if you have any sort of research desires or prowess, or just think that it's interesting, you volunteered for a study, this is how to really sort of get research on your resume. It's a fantastic experience. They have it almost at every school. I did it at Laurier, and that's actually how I got into research. I liked my project enough that I ended up doing my master's right away, and then here I am doing my PhD 7 years after finishing my master's and starting at UOIT now here. So this is a great opportunity. And this is basically applied to via this one form through Faculty of Health Science. You, I believe, have to talk to the professors before and get their approval. So they will interview you, and each has a specific sort of application and outline process. This is due Thursday, March 4th. So you should get on contacting a professor who works in an area that you're interested in. The way I would recommend contacting them is knowing what their research is. Generally, they will have links to current papers or areas of interest on their faculty page. You can also talk to them in person or shoot them an email and let them know that you're interested in that subject area. You don't know exactly what projects they have planned. You never do, because everything they've published are on their faculty page as past projects, and sometimes they're very, very different from ongoing projects that they have in mind. But that's how you would reach out to them to start. Then interview with them. Then once they've approved you to apply, then you can apply to the research practicum, and then it's a competitive elective across the faculty from there. So that application process is in the link on this page, and again, that's due in an email to Jen Chaskovich by Thursday, March 4th, I believe. I don't know what time. Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next slide here. So athletic therapy internship is pretty interesting during COVID. It's this year was a sort of adjusted internship style where the internship students were practicing an array of different techniques and applying that knowledge a lot differently than working with a team, because obviously teams weren't traveling, teams weren't practicing nearly as much, athletes were training from home, so the strength and conditioning side of it wasn't there, and the injury side of it really wasn't there. There's not people really getting too injured if they can't actually practice or play. So this was generally a lot different this year, but I'm going to go over what it was in past years, and then if you are in the advanced sports injury management class, because you must have completed this, so if you're in it now or you have completed in the past, then you're eligible. If not, you are unfortunately not eligible for this, because you need to have those advanced taping and functional techniques under your belt in order to apply them in a very independent fashion with the team. So you are essentially the student trainer assigned to a team. There are head athletic trainers for the school. Then there are student trainers from Sheridan generally that are assigned to the team as well, that are athletic therapy students. But the expectation is that you're at 90% of all practices and games. So depending on which team you're with, in which term they're loaded very heavily in, this is also a large time commitment, and you're expected to travel with the team on weekends. So this is sort of basically all the expectations of a varsity athlete, but you are the trainer side of things. So you are, again, tied at the hip to that team. It is a fantastic experience if you are looking to get into the sports medicine, sports injury, or even medical fields. Anywhere in the rehab stream, or even looking to go into physio, chiro, things like that is a fantastic opportunity. I don't know exactly when they have set a deadline, whether they're deciding what's going to happen with it this year, but you must talk to Jess Salt and apply via email through Jess. So that will be reaching out to Jess. AT Internship makes their selections before kin internships, so you can apply yes to AT Internship and kin internship, but you will have to make the decision whether you want that AT internship before before kin internship takes acceptances. So I will know at that point that you are out of the running for kin internship because you've already taken on a AT internship placement. Okay, so this is the last thing and I was getting to this. You cannot do a kin internship and an AT internship. You can mix and match either one of those kin internship or AT internship with the research practicum. I don't necessarily recommend that because research practicum is a very heavy load in and of itself, but certain professors will allow that if that is in your general interest and you are a very motivated student. Again, that is not recommended, but talk to your professor that you are applying to the research practicum for about that. So the kin internship, like AT internship, like research practicum, is a competitive elective. Historically, we have had 20 students per term based off grades, interview, and an academic conduct like process and placement available. So we've seen you guys generally in lab leading up to this past year. We haven't had the opportunity to see you and see how interested in things you are in lab, but all your previous sort of experience at the school gets taken into consideration, especially with your career goals. And I'll talk about how we place students in a minute. But you're only placed for a single term, and the expectation is 100 hours over one term, so about 8 hours a week. How that shakes out isn't exactly the same from placement to placement. Certain placements will have you come in 2 to 3 times a week for 3 hours, and other placements will be one day, 8 hours in one go. And exactly how that shakes out is to be discussed between you and your internship coordinator after you've got it, but the expectation is that you're available for at least 8 hours per week when they sort of ask. The marks for the whole course are based on a split between your supervisor ranking you, sort of rating you as an employee, how professional you were, how prepared you were, how much you were willing to learn and ask questions and benefit the placement in general, and split between a small academic component being papers and 2 small assignments worth the remaining 60% of the course. So some examples of placements here I've got listed are the Ability Center, Grandview Children's Center, Toronto Rehab Cardiac Facilities, Lakeridge Health Nephrology, Elite Training Systems, and Canadian Sport Institute of Ontario. We've had placements with the City of Oshawa in community outreach. Senior Ridgebacks is a new one this year, creating an age-friendly university and putting in the process all behind that. And then with Ontario Tech Athletics, we've had some with Wheelchair Basketball Canada, Toronto Police Foundation Services. So it's very interesting in the fact that if you have a placement that you really want to do and you know someone and you have an in, and it is a professional environment where we have time to go out and vet that placement, you can bring that to us. And then if you are selected based on your grades and career goals, we can tailor it to you. Again, you can't just sort of shove your way through because you brought your own placement. It doesn't necessarily work that way, but we will be able to get hopefully get you a placement that best fits you. And the reason we don't have a list of how many opportunities we have per placement is generally, I think it's advantageous for you to choose something that fits your career. So let's say you want to go into physio and you've done 4 placements at physio clinics. There actually might be an opportunity at Toronto Rehab Cardiac or Lake Ridge Health, something that is sort of adjacent, which will complement your resume really well. But if you haven't done any in-person physio placements, then a physio clinic would be a great placement for you. And so we sort of try and mix and match to build your resume in the best way possible and benefit you, but also to just make it so that you are getting the most out of the internship yourself, and so is the placement, because if you're not interested in the placement, you're not going to be giving it your all. The applications are due Friday, March 12th, and we're doing something a little different this year. And again, we may do interviews after, but we think in place of interviews, because they're a lot harder virtually, we're going to get everybody to submit a 3-minute video talking about your careers and goals and your experience and what you want. Kind of like I just went over, talking a little bit about your resume, how you think that you can complement that with a placement at one of these sort of more specific places, either the ones I've outlined or one you've brought with you. And then you're going to upload that file. So there's a Google form here. It asks a bunch of questions. It asks general GPA, kin-specific GPA, asks a bunch of different questions that you'll see on this form. And then at the end, you have the opportunity to upload that 3-minute video. So please fill that out. Just take that video on your phone. You can upload it right into Google Drive. I believe I will make the responses editable, so you can do it on your phone, submit it once, then take the video, then edit that response and re-upload that. So that's it about Kin Internship. I'm going to pass it on to Ian.
Hi everyone, I'm Ian Barker. I'm the other individual with Ryan that runs the internships. My job usually is finding the placements, doing the locales, making sure that people get placed, helping with interviews, things like that. Some information about the internships and the application process Ryan's talked about. It's a little different again this year with COVID because quite frankly, we just don't know. Generally, we take about 20 students per semester. That all depends on how many placements we have, what centers are taking them. This changes year by year. With COVID, we don't know yet, so we're waiting to see. This semester, we only had 5 or 6 placements, I believe. And we got lucky having those. Some were at hospitals virtually. A bunch were on campus. So we're just really waiting to see. So part of this will be moving forward. We'll do the video submissions. Ryan and I and the professor for next year will look through them. We'll start to make lists of placements that we normally have, where people might fit. And then we kind of wait and see. We may do some interviews later in the spring and into the summer. But we'll let you know for sure before you have to register for classes kind of where we stand as of that point, whether you have a placement in the fall, in the winter, if you're on a wait list, and kind of where we know we are as far as how many people we have and how many placements we have to date. And that can change. So in the winter semester, it may change throughout the year, and we'll go back to that wait list. But it's always a good idea for you to have some other electives in play just in case, because we really don't know right now. The placements are only for a single term, so you can either do the fall or winter. So that's one thing we always ask is if you could please tell us which one you prefer, or if you don't care, that's great too, because that opens up some flexibility for us. You can't do the Kin internship and the AT internship at the same time. We're trying to give as much experience to the most amount of people. So by doing 2 of those, it's too much work and too much time on your end, and it also eliminates opportunities for certain students that wouldn't get it otherwise because someone's doing 2. The expectation for the lab is 100 hours for the semester, so roughly over 12 weeks, that's about 8 hours per week. Throughout the presentation or throughout the course, you'll do 2 papers. You'll have 1 supervisor report in the midterm and 1 supervisor report at the end of the semester, where your supervisor at your placement will mark you based on your how you're doing at that placement and how you progressed. We do placement sites across the region, so we have a lot obviously in Durham region, local with bus lines, things like that. We also go into Toronto. We've done some within Ontario. The ones within Ontario, though, we have to also we have to have that well in advance so we know we can vet that place, because there's a lot of liability and legal things we have to go over to make sure that it's a proper placement for you, that it's somewhere that we can actually vet it, and it's, they have the insurance and all that extra stuff you don't need to know about. But we try and make sure that we're providing the placements. If you happen to have a placement idea, let us know, because sometimes opportunities arise from students letting us know. We just have to be able to go and vet those placements. Some of the examples of placements we've done in the past are, Ability Center, Grandview Children's Center, Toronto Rehab Cardiac, physio clinics, chiro clinics, Elite Training Systems here at the school, which is the strength and conditioning coaches, CSIO, which is Canada Sport Institute of Ontario, Lake Ridge Health, we're with Oshawa Seniors, Senior Ridgebacks, we're here at the athletics with, sometimes in the AT department with Justin Saul, Wheelchair Basketball Canada, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of placements, and there's a wide variety of placements depending on what you're looking to do. So that's kind of something you can start thinking about now, is what's your next steps or what you want to be involved in. And that, to that point as well, if say you're interested in going to physiotherapy and you've already worked at 4 physio clinics, physiotherapy clinic's probably not the best bet for you now. Like, let's try and get you working with kids or working with athletes and mix it up a little bit so your resume is a little stronger, so you get some different ideas of what's out there, and it will help you in your process to applying to whatever you're going to do after school. That will be all come out in the videos and in our interviews that we may do later on. We'll ask those questions and kind of tease that information out of you. The application deadline is Friday, March 12th. Ryan's provided a link here that you can go to fill out all your information, provide your video for us. The video that I've been talking about is a 3-minute video talking about your career goals, any experiences you want to have, populations you want to work with. It just gives us an idea, without being able to do those in-person interviews, of what you're interested in, what opportunities we have available for you, and how we can kind of best fit everybody as much as possible. So all that information is in the link that Ryan's providing. If you have questions for us, obviously let us know, but make sure you have that in by March 12th. We try and keep it pretty tight on that, because we have a lot of work ahead of us to make sure that we can get placements set up and ready and get interviews done for the amount of students that usually apply to these. It is a competitive elective, of course, as well, so you don't have to take it. It's a great experience if you can. We unfortunately just don't know numbers yet, and we'll work on that as best we can over the next several months once we figure out what's going on with COVID. If you have any other questions for us, please let us know at any time. But yeah, otherwise, thanks, and looking forward to hearing from you.
So that's our little kin internship talk for this year. Hope you enjoyed it. And again, this is the application form. Don't forget to click on that. I'll put the link to that in the description, as well as the link to the slides if you need any of the other details. Thanks. Have a good one.